Well, guys, as we're nearing the end of the season, it is now time for my Week 17 picks of the 2023 NFL season. As last week, I went 11-5. I think I was 10-2 at one point, but then crapped the bed near the end of the week, so couldn't get to 12-4, which is very annoying. And, of course, here is the playoff stands and the regular season stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Ravens with the bye, with Colts at Dolphins, Bills at Chiefs, and Browns at Jaguars. In the NFC, it's the 49ers with the bye, with Seahawks at Eagles, Rams at Lions, and Cowboys at Buccaneers. And my Super Bowl prediction is the Ravens over the 49ers. Alright, so now it's time to get to my Week 17 picks. Starting off with our last Thursday night game, as it is the Jets at the Browns for the first time since 2018. The Jets won the last one, the Browns haven't beaten them since 2019, and the Jets haven't won in Cleveland since 2017. And the Browns, if they win, or the Steelers, Bengals, Colts, and Texans lose, they'll be in the playoffs for the first time since 2020. As the Jets, of course, almost choked it away against the Commanders. They had a big lead, then they choked away and got the win in the end to try and match their win from last year. Meanwhile, the Browns had to beat the Texans. Quite a high-scoring game, too, and all that. So I'm picking the Browns for this one. And then we get to our Monday night on Saturday, as a huge matchup, as it's the Lions at the Cowboys for the second year in a row. The Cowboys won the last three. The Lions haven't beaten them since 2013. They haven't won in Arlington since 2011. As the Lions, of course, clinched their first division title in 30 years last week when they beat the Vikings, as they're looking at a good spot right now to maybe contend for the number one seed potentially. Cowboys, meanwhile, lost a close one to the Dolphins, as they've already matched their loss total from last year, trying to avoid having the same loss total from last year, as this is a huge game for both of them. My gut instinct would probably say I should maybe pick the Lions, but I think I still might pick the Cowboys for this one. This is going to be a huge game. And then we get to Sunday action, as we get our huge AFC matchup, as it's the Dolphins at the Ravens for the second year in a row. They should have had this on Sunday night at the start. As the Dolphins won the last two, the Ravens haven't beaten them since 2019. They haven't won at home against them since 2017. This is huge in a lot of ways. The Ravens, if they win or the Browns lose, they will clinch the AFC North for the first time since 2019, but more importantly, if they beat the Dolphins, they will clinch home field advantage for the first time since 2019. So the number one seed is on the line in this game. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, if they win or the Bills lose, they will clinch the AFC East for the first time since 2008. So a lot on the line for this game, as both teams and the Browns are the only ones left in the AFC that can get the number one seed. So the Dolphins, of course, beat the Cowboys in a more defensive struggle. Meanwhile, the Ravens spanked the 49ers very impressively. Maybe they're looking like one of the few good teams in the AFC at the moment, because the talent this year in terms of like Super Bowl contenders is kind of low compared to last year. This is a big game and a rematch from that wild, high-scoring game last year. That is going to be very interesting and all that. My gut thinks maybe I should still pick the Dolphins, but with that strong defensive performance, I think I'll pick the Ravens for this one. And then it's the Patriots at the Bills, as the Patriots won the last one. The Bills haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won at home against them. No, the Patriots haven't won in Buffalo since 2021. So, of course, the Bills, if they win and some combination between the Steelers, Bengals, Colts, and Texans lose, they'll clinch a playoff spot for the fifth year in a row. As the Patriots, of course, beat the Broncos on Thursday night very impressively, although they're winning games when they probably shouldn't, so they get a lot better draft spot to get a QB, but in the end, they're still winning. Meanwhile, the Bills had a close one against the Chargers, but beat them on Thursday night, as got their fifth straight winning season. I'm going to pick the Bills for this one. And then it's the Falcons at the Bears for the first time since 2017. As the Falcons won the last one, the Bears haven't beaten them since 2020, and Falcons haven't beaten them in Chicago since 2017. So, of course, both teams have a tough time coming up. Falcons trying to win to avoid like a sixth straight losing season, but if they lose and the Buccaneers, Rams, and Seahawks win, they are eliminated from the playoffs. Bears, if they lose or the Rams and Seahawks win, they'll be eliminated once again. So, a lot on the line for this game. Whoever loses pretty much is going to be out. as the Falcons spanked the Colts surprisingly to match their win total from last year. They're trying to get to 8 wins. Meanwhile, the Bears, God dang it, can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they did win, but it won't come to my mind who they beat. But they got the win and all that. And this is going to be a very interesting game. And I actually might pick the Bears for this one, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons get it. And then, of course, after that, it's the Titans at the Texans, as the Texans won the last 2. The Titans haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Houston since 2018, as the Texans try to get their first winning season since 2019. And, of course, the Titans lost a close one to the Seahawks. The Texans, meanwhile, got spanked by the Browns. Of course, Stroud didn't play, I think, so that's not looking good for them. This could be an interesting game, but I'm going to pick the Texans for this one. And then we get to a big AFC matchup, as it's the Raiders at the Colts for the first time since 2021, as these two have played each other for the last, 5 years straight, alternating between who's hosting and all that. Colts won the last one. The Raiders haven't beaten them since 2021, and the Colts haven't won at home against the Raiders since 2013. As the Raiders try to avoid their second straight losing season, the Colts are trying to get their first winning season since 2021. And the Raiders, if they lose, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. They have to win this in order to stay in the playoff race. Meanwhile, the Raiders humiliated the Chiefs on Christmas Day as their defense looked really good. Meanwhile, the Colts got spanked by the Falcons. That was very embarrassing. And, of course, like I said, this game, they've played each other 5 years straight, alternating who's hosting, and the away team has won. The Colts beat the Raiders in Oakland, Vegas. The Raiders beat the Colts in Indianapolis. So, this is going to be very interesting, very tough game between the two, and it could go either way. But I'm still going to pick the Colts for this one, but if the Raiders win, I will not be surprised. And then it's the Panthers at the Jaguars for the first time since 2015. As the Panthers won the last 3, the Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2007. And the Jaguars are trying to get their second straight win season. And the Jaguars, if they win and the Colts and Texans lose, they will clinch a playoff spot for the second year in a row. And maybe the AFC South, according to ESPN, as I'm looking up again. Yep, they would clinch the AFC South as well if they win and the Colts and Texans lose. So the Panthers lost a close one to the Packers. They actually played pretty good offensively, but they couldn't get the job done. Meanwhile, the Jaguars got destroyed by the Buccaneers as they look like the worst team right now in the AFC playoff race right now in terms of the playoff bracket. They look like the worst. Like they're barely even holding on for dear life. And all that. They're just thankful they have the tiebreakers over the Colts and Texans to potentially get the playoff spot this week and all that. But I'm gonna... This is a tough one, actually. You know what? I think I might take an upset pick and pick the Panthers, because their loss against the Packers impressed me, whereas the Jaguars now lost 4 in a row in terrible games. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Panthers in an upset. See how well that goes for me. And then it's the Rams at the Giants for the first time since 2021. As the Rams won the last 3, the Giants haven't beaten them since 2016. They haven't won at home against them since 2011. As the Rams try to get their first winning season since 2021. And the Rams, if they win and the Saints and Falcons lose and the Packers and Vikings tie, they will clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2021. As the Rams, oh my god, I can't remember who they beat earlier. Last week. Oh, that's right, they beat the Saints on Thursday night. Thursday night. Spanked them at first, but then the Saints roared back, but they still got the win. The Giants, meanwhile, actually had a very competitive game against the Eagles for the first time in a long time in Philadelphia, but they just couldn't get the job done. As this could be an interesting game, but I'm going to pick the Rams for this one. Looked a lot better recently. And then it's the Cardinals at the Eagles for the first time since 2017, I believe, as the Eagles won the last one. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2020, and they haven't won in Philadelphia since 2015. And the Eagles, if they win and the Cowboys lose, they will clinch the AFC East for the second year in a row and become the first team since the Eagles 20 years ago almost to win the NFC East back-to-back years. So the Cardinals... Oh, that's right, there you go. Now I remember, they lost to the Bears. There we go, that's who the Bears played. Meanwhile, the Eagles barely beat the Giants. So, yeah, they won, but that was not a very impressive victory. They barely beat the Giants. But of course, the Cardinals are one of the worst teams in the league, so I'm going to pick the Eagles for this. Surely you should be able to beat the Cardinals, right? It shouldn't be that hard. All right, then we get to the next one. Big one is the Saints are at the Buccaneers. As the Buccaneers won the last 3, the Saints haven't beaten them since 2021. As the Saints try to avoid their second straight losing season, the Buccaneers are trying to get their first winning season since 2021. Buccaneers, if they win and the Falcons lose, they will clinch a playoff spot for the 4th year in a row, and they'll clinch the NFC South for the first time. No, clinch the NFC South for the 3rd year in a row. Saints, meanwhile, if they lose and the Seahawks win, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. So a lot on the line for these two. As the Saints lost to the Rams as they got spanked. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers spanked the shit out of the Jaguars and actually looking very good for an 8-7 team. They might be a little bit underestimated going into the playoffs right now, so they have a chance to clinch it this week. Very impressive job they've played lately. And I'm going to pick the Buccaneers for this one. And then it's the 49ers at the Commanders for the first time since 2019. As the 49ers won the last one, the Commanders haven't beaten them since 2020, and they haven't won at home against them since 2017. As the 49ers, if they win and the Lions and Eagles lose, they will clinch home field advantage for the first time since 2019. So a lot on the line there. Meanwhile, the 49ers got spanked and destroyed by the Ravens as Purdy had a horrible game throwing 4 picks and all that. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, the Commanders, second week in a row, they looked like shit, got destroyed by Jets, but then they let Brissett come in and all of a sudden he cooked and almost pulled off the comeback to get the win. Gee, maybe this should be a good sign you should have Brissett as your star. Maybe you'd win your last 2 games and all that. So yeah, I'm picking the 49ers for this one. And then we get to the 4 p.m. games as a big outer conference matchup, as it's the Steelers at the Seahawks for the first time since 2015. As the Steelers won the last one, the Seahawks haven't beaten them since 2019, and the Steelers have not won in Seattle since 1983. So Steelers are trying to get their first win. They're gotten multiple straight winning season, I believe. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are trying to get their second straight win season too. Seahawks, if they win and the Saints and Falcons lose and the Packers and Vikings tie, they will clinch a playoff spot for a 2nd year in a row. So Steelers spanked and destroyed the Bengals, finally ended their 3-game losing streak as they're still trying to hold on for a playoff spot. Meanwhile, the Seahawks beat the Titans in a struggle as they got the win to try and salvage their struggles lately, as they now won 2 in a row. This is going to be a very interesting game and all that. But I think I still just might edge out and pick the Seahawks for this one, but I won't be surprised if the Steelers get it. Alright, then it's the Chargers at the Broncos. As the Broncos won the last 2, the Chargers haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Denver since 2019, I believe. And the Broncos, if they lose and Colts or Texans win, either one of them win, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. So they're trying to avoid, like their 7th straight losing season. So the Chargers, of course, had a very competitive game against the Bills, but just couldn't pull it off. Meanwhile, the Broncos lost embarrassingly to the Patriots. Meanwhile, they benched Russell Wilson now, as they're trying to maybe cut him at the end of the year and keep his cap number down and all that. So that's unfortunate for them, as that really hurts their chances now to make the playoffs, because he was doing pretty good. It was the defense that really took a shit this year. So yeah, I was going to this game heavily picking the Broncos. I'm still going to pick the Broncos, but not by much now. Maybe the Chargers have a chance now that Russell's not playing. And then it's the big AFC matchup too, as it's the AFC Championship rematch from the last 2 years. The Bengals at the Chiefs for the first time since 2018. As the Bengals won the last 2. The Chiefs haven't beaten them since 2018. And the Bengals haven't won an Arrowhead since 2012. As the Bengals try to get their 3rd straight win season. And the Chiefs, if they win or the Raiders and Broncos lose, they will clinch a playoff spot for like the 9th year in a row, and they'll clinch the AFC West for like the 8th year in a row. So a lot in the line there. Bengals got destroyed by the Steelers, really hurting their chances right now. Meanwhile, the Chiefs got humiliated by the Raiders as they look horrible. Really bad, as Mahomes looks like shit. The whole offense looks like dog shit. Like their defense, the only thing saving them, and they're blowing their chances and all that. This will be a big game, but I think I just might edge out the Chiefs for this one, but I won't be surprised if the Bengals get it. And then we wrap up the week for Sunday night, the last game of this year too, as next week will be 2024, as it's the Packers at the Vikings. as the Vikings won the last one. The Packers haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Minneapolis since 2020. As the Packers try to avoid their second straight losing season, Vikings trying to avoid their first losing season since 2021, and whoever loses this game and the Seahawks, and actually no, if whoever loses this game and potentially if they tie and the Rams and Seahawks win, they'll be eliminated from the playoffs. Whoever loses this game and the Rams Seahawks win will be eliminated, and if they tie, they'll both be eliminated if the Rams and Seahawks win. So a lot on the line here for this one. As the Packers beat the Panthers in a quite close game. They should have won more convincingly, but they couldn't get the job done. As the Packers try and match their win total from last year. Vikings, meanwhile, lost a close game to the Lions despite the fact that their quarterback threw 4 picks and all that. So, pretty disappointed job they couldn't finish it off as their playoff spots are on the line right here. Oh boy. I think this is going to be a tough one, but I think I just might edge out for the Vikings, but I won't be surprised if the Packers get it. Alright, so those are my picks for Week 17. I cannot wait for Jets at Browns tonight, so my picks are the Browns over the Jets, Lions over the Cowboys, Ravens over the Dolphins, Bills over the Patriots, Bears over the Falcons, Texans over the Titans, the Colts over the Raiders, the Panthers over the Jaguars, the Rams over the Giants, the Eagles over the Cardinals, the Buccaneers over the Saints, the 49ers over the Commanders, the Seahawks over the Steelers, the Broncos over the Chargers, the Chiefs over the Bengals, and the Vikings over the Packers. Alright guys, so see you all on Friday for my final picks of the season, since the last week of season is going to start on Saturday. So see you all on Friday for my final picks of the season, and of course remember, that Monday after the season's over, I will be posting my playoff predictions. So see you all then.